In America, we had many chances to make a dawah, and subhanAllah, there were so many converts while we were in Denver of people. Denver and Colorado, they have very open minds. The people there are not bigoted like the people in the South and have more of an open mind to religion. But my advice, or not advice, is for anyone who wants to make a dawah to a non-Muslim, especially to a Christian, you have like 2 or 3 seconds to say, to either capture this person's attention or to lose them. And the most important thing that you let a Christian know is, I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Immaculate Conception. I believe in the virgin birth. I believe Jesus ascended into heaven. And I believe Jesus is coming again. And when Christians think that a Muslim believes that, they go, oh, no, you don't. You believe in Jesus, you know. And when you tell them, we believe in more miracles of Jesus than you do as a Christian, you know, then their mind is opened more into studying about Islam and to studying the beauty of Islam. And my advice to any person who is in the path now looking to just enlighten themselves about Islam is to just have an open mind and do what I say. Ask God to show you the way to Jannah. You're not asking them to show you a religion. You're showing them, asking for a path, a way that could lead you to heaven. That's what we need. I mean, in actuality, we have one chance at life, one chance to win, and when we sit in front of God, we hope we get our book on the right side, inshallah.
أمريكية أعرفت طريقها إلى الجنة. سناء اعتنقت الإسلام في صباها بعد أن كانت ديانتها مسيحية، لكنها كلما تعرفت إلى الإسلام كلما أدركت أنها كانت مسلمة بالفطرة منذ الصغر.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sana Vaughn. I was born a Christian to a very devout Christian family. I was the only daughter, and subhanAllah, I look back in retrospect through my life, and I see even when I was a young child, I was still Muslim. I remember one story of me and my brother. I guess I must have been about 5 years old or 6 years old, and he was outside and he took a knife and he started cutting the tree, and I became just hysterical. I was like, that's God's tree, and God's going to be angry with you. And later in life, when I did become Muslim, I remember someone telling me about Laylatul Qadr. And if we could see the spirit of the trees, everything would be in sujood during this night. And it just confirmed to me that when I was a small child, how I was Muslim at that time.
علمت ضيفتنا دائما بوجود إله، وتضرعت له أن يرشدها للطريق الحق، وأيقنت بثقة أنه لن يخذلها.
We've always been devout Christians in the family, practicing Christianity. Every time the church was open, we were at the church. I mean, our mother raised us in the church. And being Southern Baptist people raise their children knowing the Bible, knowing about the religion, and practicing the religion. And that's how we were raised. Whenever I look back, we had, you know, never missed church service unless there was just deathly illness in the family. And knowing that, you know, that was our place in life and the rules in following our life. Whenever I was younger, I don't know that I always knew there was a God, and I always knew that one day we would be back in front of God. However that was, I don't really know that I questioned it. I always realized that there was a God. And we've had, I mean, I think that for me, my first steps, the first time I ever saw a Muslim Well, I had seen Muslims before, but I never thought about them. I had finished my bachelor's degree and had transferred to a different university to do my master's. And my first day of school, I heard something outside the window. And whenever I got up and walked to the window to see what was happening, there was a man outside and he started making the adhan for prayer. And I sat and I watched him. It was in January. And he had his sleeves rolled up and his pants legs rolled up. And it was cold. It was cold. It was January. This was Oklahoma. And I thought to myself, my God, he's got to be cold out there. And then all of these other people started coming. And they started lining up behind him. And there was just line after line of people. And when I watched them, I thought to myself, I think they worship their God in the right way. They're worshiping God, you know? And so I went and I sat back down at my seat. And as I sat at my seat, I kept thinking, you know, I wonder what was going through their mind. What is their, I would see them bend, I would see them get down on the ground, and I would think, what are they doing in each portion of their prayer? Well, one of these men came into my lab class, and I went and I walked up to him and I said, what were you doing out there? And he said, I was praying. And I said, well, who are you praying to? He said, I was praying to Allah. I said, who's Allah? He said, Allah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, God, you know? And I was like, okay. I think I was satisfied because I didn't want him to think I wanted to be a Muslim, because I didn't want to be a Muslim. When you think of where I came from and the Southern Baptist roots and the prejudice of the South, and I just knew it was something different. But anyway, I thanked him for his information. I just went and sat down. As soon as I finished class, I went to the library and I took a book on Islam. Well, I went home that evening and I read all evening about Islam, and I came back the next day and the book was sitting on my desk in the lab class, and he walked by and he said, what are you reading that book for? And I said, why? He said, if you're going to read a book on Islam, read a good book, one that's written by a Muslim, not written by John Smith, or read one by Muhammad Abdullah, or something that you know that would be an accurate information and without bias. And I said, yeah, okay. Anyway, the next day, he brought some books to my cubicle, and I read them. And I still didn't want to be Muslim. You know, I was still adamant, but I was still so curious about what Islam was. I had that hunger for it. So I kept reading, and I kept reading. And I found a woman who worked there at the university who was a closet Muslim. She had accepted Islam, but because her husband was Christian, he would not allow her to practice Islam. He would beat her, actually, if he caught her praying. But when she found out I was learning about Islam, she started bringing me books, accurate books on Islam. And so me and her became good friends. Her name was Carol. And we became good friends. And I found out she lived just around the street from me. So we started walking every day after school, and we would talk about Islam. And the more I read about Islam, the more I realized I was already Muslim. I still did not want to become Muslim because I still had the Christian concept of belief is enough. If I just believe something, it's going to be enough for me. I don't have to practice it. I don't have to do whatever. But of course, the more you learn about Islam, the more you realize that you are responsible for your actions. And actually, one of my friends was Catholic, and she's one of my roommates. And so she was going to fast Lent, which is a 40-day period of fasting for Roman Catholics. But their fasting is completely different. They don't give up food or they don't give up drink. They give up like one thing that they really love. Like to some people it's smoking. They don't smoke for a month. To some people it's a piece of chocolate. So, you know. But so anyway, during that time I said, okay, I'll give up Diet Coke. I'll fast with you, the Diet Coke thing. But I was still looking into Islam, and I think it was during that period of time I became more spiritual, and I really was looking for the roots to Islam. And I remember late one evening, I had been studying for my finals exam. And I had been studying and studying. I had stacks and stacks of books that I needed to know that information. And so I was just, we call it cramming, where I just would just read and read and read. But about 1 o'clock that night, I realized I didn't comprehend anything because my heart is thinking about Islam, And that night, I said, okay, if I just go to bed and I try to get a good night's sleep, I know this, and I'll do good on my test. But when I went and I laid in my bed, I couldn't sleep. My conviction, my heart was thinking about Islam. How can I do it? What will I do? And subhanAllah, I made a little prayer. I just said, oh God, please give me some peace in my heart. This is overwhelming me. Please just give me some peace in my heart. And nothing happened. So I got on my knees by my bed, and I said, I just poured my heart. I said, God, show me the way to Jannah. I want to go to heaven. I make the promise now, if you show me the way to Jannah, if it's Christianity, I'll be a good Christian. If it's Islam, I'll be a good Muslim. Tonight I make the promise of making my commitment to you. And subhanAllah, I got into bed and I fell fast asleep. It's like I felt the peace come in my heart. I went to sleep. I woke up very early and I went to the school to take my exam. On the way into the building, I met Carol. It's the first person I'd seen since I made this prayer. And she was already in her office. And she called me. She saw me coming in and she said, come here, come here. And I'm like, no, I'm late for my test. She said, come here. And when I went to her, she said, I want you to meet this person. They taught me everything I know about Islam. The imam of the masjid had come to the school that morning after Fajr. And, you know, whenever she said they taught me everything, I knew that was my answer, that God had sent him there immediately for me. And I told him, I want to take my shahada. I want to take my shahada. He said, make the words now. Say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, right now, because God only knows if you have life whenever you walk away from here. So I said my shahada, and I had the most unbelievable experience. I don't know if you've ever been chilled, like you're cold, and you get into some warm water, and you feel like a warming feeling it came all over my body. And it was like my blood stopped circulating. It's like it had been rushing. There was this energy in my body my whole life. At that second, I knew what my purpose in life was. I felt the peace for the first time. I felt actual, some kind of focus. And I knew that was Islam, and Islam was my way. And so, subhanAllah, that's how I took my faith.
قررت سناء أن تفتح قلبها للإيمان فأسلمت ومن ثم استسلمت لأوامر الله تعالى.
After becoming Muslim, I still had the Western mentality of, oh, well, I can be Muslim, but I don't have to really dress as a Muslim, And about 3 months after this time was a time that I really devoted to learning about Islam and learning what was required of me and how actions were important. And my family was coming for my graduation at the university. And I knew that if they saw me without a scarf and without practicing Islam, that they would never accept me being a Muslim. They'd never accept me putting on a scarf later. So what I did is I came out for my graduation with my scarf on. It was the first time anyone at school saw me. And alhamdulillah, my family saw it. They were really shocked. And they helped me move back to Louisiana, where my family lives. Most of my family lives there. And it was a difficult transition period for them. It was, imagine me going home, I'm wearing a scarf now, it's embarrassing to the, for the neighbors to see me. For them, they were very shy about it. But alhamdulillah, I asked my mother whenever she told me, please take this scarf off, it's an embarrassment. I said, either you accept me with my scarf or I go away. Don't make me choose between my God and my family, because Islam tells me to serve you and to be the best to you. And that's, it's my obligation as a Muslim. Alhamdulillah, I was hired for a job in California 2 weeks later, and so I transferred to California. Actually, there in California, in San Francisco, mashallah, there was a beautiful Muslim community. There were so many people from everywhere, from every country, a lot of American converts to Islam. And subhanAllah, there I was able to find some good Muslim sisters who helped me learn some Arabic and learn some Quran, memorize some surahs of Quran. And about a year and a half later, I was introduced to my husband and was married. And now I have 5 beautiful children.
بدأت ضيفتنا خطوتها الأولى، وما كان إلا بتوفيق من الله تعالى أن يسر لها دربها.
I think probably the most precious thing that's happened to me, my mother took her shahada last year, and I traveled back to the U.S. and spent 6 months with her. And alhamdulillah, Allah has really blessed her. That I used to make dua when I first became Muslim. Every time I bent my knees, I'd say, oh Allah, just let her take shahada. I think she's the best woman. I see how she sacrificed for each one of her children and devoted herself. I really think that she deserves shahada, And through all of these years, every time when she would come to visit or I would go to visit her, I always felt sad that she just didn't accept Islam. And subhanAllah, I saw the mercy when we went back last year. 2 years ago, she was diagnosed with lymphoma type B, and it's a rare form of cancer. And they tried to initiate chemotherapy, and I really wasn't happy about it, and I prayed about it a lot. And there was an abscess in her port, so they couldn't start the chemotherapy. So they did another port, and then she had a heart attack. And so subhanAllah, they weren't able to do the chemotherapy for her, which was a blessing, because she was able to be stronger and spend more time with us and learning about Islam. And alhamdulillah, she did take her shahada and accepted Islam. I also have one brother, my youngest brother, who accepted Islam about 15 years ago. And mashallah, in our area, like I said, 25 years ago, there were no Muslims, absolutely none. There were just, and I went back this last year and was able to spend some time. And I live in a small college. There's a university. And mashallah, they had built a masjid. And mashallah, it was full of American Muslims. I mean, there were other nationalities and stuff there, but subhanAllah, it was full of more American than any other thing. And we were so happy to see that growth of Islam in America. And even subhanAllah, we were there for Ramadan. And my first Ramadan, I look back and not, just becoming Muslim and looking back on the practices, the new prayer in the evening time. And alhamdulillah, I had the community around me. It was in San Francisco. And subhanAllah, we know in the medical side of fasting, subhanAllah, a person who's not, there's a nice book on nutritional healing, and there's a whole section on fasting, and it talks about the benefits of fasting. It says if you're ill with like a virus or something, fast 3 days. And what's the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Fast 13th, 14th, and 15th of each month. This is if you have a small virus. If you have something that's a little bit, more harsh on your body, then you fast for 10 days. And if you have a serious life-threatening illness, you fast for 1 month. SubhanAllah, this is what this book says, who's written by a non-Muslim. So SubhanAllah, we see the benefits of fasting, and even that first Ramadan was, it was difficult, because in the American concept of giving up food for a full day from sunrise to sunset was very difficult. No water, no food. But alhamdulillah, you feel after 3 days or 4 days how your body needed that rest, and subhanAllah, how you benefited from it. And also spiritually, how you gain from the month of Ramadan, subhanAllah.
سناء ككل المسلمين أحبت الخير لكل أحبائها كما أحبته لنفسها.
We had talked, it's like I've told you, we bent our knees, and not only me, my children also prayed for their grandmother, and my mother's been in the hospital for about 2 years, where she wasn't released, where she's been kept in the hospital. And we called her one evening. It was her birthday, and even though we don't celebrate birthdays, it was her birthday, and she celebrates, and she's lets everyone know. And I said, Mother, what would you like for your birthday? She said, come take me out of this hospital and take me for dinner somewhere. So me and my sons drove, it was like 100 miles, so to her, and we got her and took her out to her favorite restaurant. And as we were sitting at the restaurant, it was time for Maghrib prayer. So as she was finishing eating, we said, Mom, it's time for us to pray. Now, should we take you back to the hospital first? The masjid's very close to us here. Should we go to the masjid? And she said, no, I'll go to the masjid with you tonight. And I'm like, are you sure? The weather's cold. It was January. It was freezing cold. And she says, no, for sure. I want to go to the masjid with you tonight. Would you take me with you? And so we went to the masjid. It was very cold, Louisiana night. It was raining and a little bit of sleet, coming ice with the rain. And we just wrapped her up. And I had bought her this beautiful shawl that it had hand embroidery on it, and it was a nice, beautiful wool color. And she was wearing it wrapped around her head like a scarf, because I told her if you go in the masjid, you have to cover your head. So she had it wrapped up nicely like a hijab. And we went inside the imam's office and set her. We went and prayed. When we come back, the imam was talking with her. And subhanAllah, discussing Islam. And when I remember coming into the room, he was like, well, do you believe in one God? She says, of course I believe in one God. Do you think I believe in more than one God? No, I only believe in one God. He asked, do you believe that Muhammad is the prophet, last prophet and messenger of God? And she said, yes, I believe in Muhammad. And he said, well, then why don't you take your shahada? She said, I'll take my shahada now. And subhanAllah, everyone was crying. There wasn't many people, but the few that were there, even the imam, he said, I wouldn't take $1 million.
تعلمت سناء أن تسأل الخالق وتتقرب إليه في حياتها، وخصوصا عند الحاجة، فهو سبحانه المعطي.
Another, throughout my life, and times that I've had confirmation that Islam is the right way. There was, in 1995, I was diagnosed with cancer. And there was a long period of time where I literally went from doctor to doctor for them trying to find out what was wrong with me. And after 2 or 3 months, I found one doctor, and she said, oh, I see your problem. She took some biopsies, and she called me the next morning, and she said, you have this type of cancer. And so I had a new baby. He was a few months old. And I was so sad. I was just thinking, oh, subhanAllah, here I am sick now, and I have this baby. And it was after the Dhuhr prayer, I went, and I spent most of my day praying, because just for God to give me some direction. And when I went to sleep at the Dhuhr time, after the Dhuhr prayer, I had a dream that I saw there was a man, he was maybe like 10 feet in front of me, and he was knelt down, and he was eating, some dates. And as he would eat, he would put the seed and he'd take another date. And I was wondering, what am I sitting watching this man for? And as I was standing there, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to my back. He was right here. I could like see his face in my peripheral vision. And he said, Sana, do you know who this is? And I said, no, who is this? He said, that's Abu Bakr Siddiq. And I was so excited that this is Abu Bakr Siddiq. I don't realize this is Rasulullah speaking with me. And I'm just, this is Abu Bakr Siddiq, this is, oh my, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And then Rasulullah kept telling me his whole life he gave to the people. His whole life he gave. And subhanAllah, you know, during this time my daughter woke me up. So I came, and I was thinking, what did this dream mean? What could it mean? So we called one shack. And he mentioned to me, he said, if you're sure this was dates that Abu Bakr Siddiq was eating, then subhanAllah, he didn't come to tell you that you're going to die. He came to tell you that you're going to have life. And subhanAllah, he said, you sure it wasn't zaytun? Zaytun has a pit also. I said, no, it was tamar. He said, no, he came to tell you you're going to have life. And subhanAllah, they found many complications with my cancer, from my throat to 4 tumors in my lungs. But subhanAllah, when I went to America, they were confirmed here by tissue samples, by specimens. We sent them to America and they were confirmed. When I went there, I had the initial surgery, and subhanAllah, by the time they took it out, they said it was finished. SubhanAllah, Allah cured me, you know. Had 2 confirmations and positive biopsy specimens, and Allah decided to cure me. Alhamdulillah. So SubhanAllah, his dream to me meant that, Alhamdulillah, he would give me life, and did, SubhanAllah.
خلق الله تعالى البشر لعبادته، وأينما وجد المسلم فهو داعية للدين الحق.
In closing, there's just a couple of things, advices that I would like to say. In America, we had many chances to make a dawah, and subhanAllah, there were so many converts while we were in Denver of people. Denver and Colorado, they have very open minds. The people there are not bigoted like the people in the South, and have more of an open mind to religion. But my advice, or not advice, is for anyone who wants to make a dawah to a non-Muslim, especially to a Christian, you have like 2 or 3 seconds to say, to either capture this person's attention or to lose them. And the most important thing that you let a Christian know is, I believe in Jesus. I believe in the Immaculate Conception. I believe in the virgin birth. I believe Jesus ascended into heaven. And I believe Jesus is coming again. And when Christians think that a Muslim believes that, they go, oh, no, 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 you don't. You believe in Jesus, you know. And when you tell them, we believe in more miracles of Jesus than you do as a Christian, you know, then their mind is opened more into studying about Islam and to studying the beauty of Islam. And my advice to any person who is in the path now looking to just enlighten themselves about Islam is to just have an open mind and do what I said. Ask God to show you the way to Jannah. You're not asking them to show you a religion. You're showing them, asking for a path, a way that could lead you to heaven. That's what we need. I mean, in actuality, we have one chance at life, one chance to win. And when we sit in front of God, we hope we get our book on the right side, inshallah.